All right, guys, I am back with a brand new DC update. And there's not a whole lot of news that came out over the last 24 hours. And what I'm going to do for the first part of this video is address something that people have been asking me on my channel for. And then I'm going to show you the couple of photos, and then I'm going to talk about the future of my channel and what I have planned coming up so that you guys can take a look at that after I've put out the DC news. But first of all, a lot of people have been asking for the photos, the cool photos that I grabbed that I think are just neat to share. They're not really news, but just the photos that I've been grabbing and I show on my channel. People have been asking for a copy of those. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be setting up a folder where people can download those photos from. I'm going to set up either a YouTube, not a YouTube, Dropbox or a Box.com folder specifically for those folders. I'll share the link in my video, and as long as it doesn't get abused, I will continue to share those. And I'm also going to include my email address in case anybody needs to get a hold of me. I've shared it in the past, and I think I may start sharing these. I may start a template that I put in the description of all the videos in case anybody needs to get in touch with me. But let's take a look at the few things that have come out today, and then I'm going to talk about the state of the DCU and the DCEU, and then I'm going to give you the information on my channel. So let's take a look. So first up here, I'm going to continue to share stuff on the personal lives of the actors and actresses who have been in the DCEU and the DCU. Every once in a while when something comes across that I think is important to share, and I thought this was interesting. First of all, I did not know that Lisa Bonet and Jason Momoa were actually a couple, but they are. And it says Lisa Bonet has filed for divorce from Jason Momoa 18 years after the two actors became a couple. It's never a good thing to see when people break up like this, but marriages can break up for all sorts of reasons. And it's a shame to see this happen. But honestly, if it has to do with his acting, you know, I look at Zack Snyder's Justice League, how Aquaman was portrayed in there versus how he was portrayed at the end of The Flash and also Aquaman 2. I can see how he can completely become a different person. So maybe he's got multiple personalities, but I digress. That's just a little bit of a joke there, but I wish both of them the best moving forward. Now, this trails off of something that I talked about yesterday, and I'm going to make it very clear in a few minutes why I do not like James Gunn, but this goes along with that, and I would really like to know if this is true or not. Now, I don't know if this is 100% true or not. This is possibly a rumor, but I could see this happening. It says Peacemaker that James Gunn told John Cena not to read the comics. That's a pretty big deal, guys. This shows you how James Gunn wants to make his own thing, and he does not care about the comics. And I talked about this in my last video. James Gunn does not care about comic book characters, and he made that very clear with his comments after Peacemaker or after the Suicide Squad came out, and I showed that yesterday in my video. And if you haven't seen that video, you're going to want to go back and watch it. It shows his true feelings on superheroes, and that's the guy they put in charge of this whole entire DC universe. And I think it's very disheartening at this stage. Now, there are reasons why I don't like James Gunn. People think that I'm just a Zack Snyder channel, and I'm not. This was never just about Zack Snyder. It's about the whole DCU as a whole. I definitely talk about David Ayer a lot as well. So am I a David Ayer cultist? Am I a Patty Jenkins cultist? Am I a James Wan cultist? Because I liked all of those movies. I liked everything up until Justice League came out, and then everything thereafter. I even enjoyed the first Shazam, but after that, everything became garbage, utter garbage. It's becoming very clear and apparent online that people are starting to realize that we actually had gold in our hands and that we're headed for nothing other than a disaster. It is true that there is true superhero fatigue out there. It's a thing, even though people say there isn't. And I will tell you, I just got done watching Echo, the whole program. I'm going to have a review on that. And we're going to talk about the issues with that show and just the issue with the superhero genre as a whole. And the first issue is the fact that there's nothing fresh or new out there. Everything seems to be a generic comedy. If you look at everything that the DCU has put out since Shazam, has been nothing other than a comedy. The only one that was nowhere near the level of comedy of the others was Black Adam. And I already talked about how popular that movie continues to be, even a year and a half after it was released, and it's still selling like crazy on physical media, and people have an interest in those things. And it's really sad that Warner Brothers has pulled the rug out from underneath the fans and that universe, and they should have just stuck with Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca and moved forward with what they had announced back in October of last year. But instead, not last year, the year before. So, like I said, about a year and a half ago. It's just a shame where everything is headed now. And I really don't think that there's any hope for Warner Brothers. They're still bleeding money. I don't even know how they afforded to grab Tom Cruise. And I talked a little bit about this yesterday. I am betting that up front they're not paying anything to bring him into the studio other than giving him a contract saying you can do whatever you need to, and they probably get a percentage of the profits. And I'm betting that's the kind of a deal they made with him because he's worth money. I mean, people will go and see Tom Cruise. And this may also finally allow him to make, The World of Tomorrow or whatever that movie was called, where things repeated over and over again. They've been trying to make a sequel to that film for many years, and this may finally allow them to get that sequel made. So there's definitely some good things with him coming into the studio. But anybody, I had a lot of people come onto Twitter yesterday and lambaste me for saying, oh, you said nobody wants to work with Warner Brothers. There's a lot of people, and I have shown you the proof. There are analysts out there who have even stated, and I've shown you those documents and those articles where there are filmmakers and people, actors and producers and directors who are specifically staying away from Warner Brothers for the time being until they get sold. And everybody seems to think that Warner Brothers is just the movie division, and it's not. And they actually bled about $450 million in the last quarter, and their shareholders are not happy about that because they have been paying back their debt. And somebody tried to come in and make a comparison where they said, it's like you having a mortgage and credit cards. If you can pay those things, you're not poor, even though you're in debt, like highly in debt to pay for those things. That's true to a degree. But at the same time, you can't continue to bleed money because all you're doing is treading water. And that actually happened this last quarter for Warner Brothers, and the shareholders are not happy about it. So things are still not good for Warner Brothers. Things are not good for DC. I don't think James Gunn is going to be the right guy, and I've talked about why before. All those comments that he made, and then how he's treated the DC characters. He's never taken anything as far as DC goes seriously. Nothing he's done for DC. And everyone will talk about how great Guardians of the Galaxy was and how that's why he got hired and he's the right guy for the job. One franchise does not make him worthy of taking over these characters because every time he's had a hold of something DC, he's made a joke out of it. Peacemaker is nothing like the comic book, and that's what that comment was about. Vigilante was nothing like the comic book, and that's what those comments are about. He thinks of the DC characters as a joke, and we saw that also at the end of Peacemaker, and all of this makes sense now. At the end of Peacemaker, when he brought in the Justice League, and it was nothing but jokes. It was a joke between them and Peacemaker. It was a joke between Barry Allen and Arthur Curry. It's nothing other than a joke to him. He does not take DC seriously. And the same thing with the Suicide Squad movie. It was nothing other than disgusting juvenile jokes, masturbation jokes, all kinds of goofy jokes and full frontal nudity and stuff. It was just not, he does not take DC or these characters seriously. That doesn't mean he doesn't have moments of brilliance, but, I'll use Guardians of the Galaxy 3 as an example. In Guardians of the Galaxy 3, there was a great moment between Star-Lord and Gamora that got pretty emotional. Like, I was like, wow, he's actually pulling off. And then they end it with a freaking joke. It ended with a freaking joke. And this is what James Gunn is known for. He cannot take things seriously. So, guys, he has a lot to prove to me. I hope that Superman Legacy is the most amazing superhero film ever. I do. I really do. I would love to walk out of the theater absolutely loving that movie and being proven wrong. And I will admit it if that's what it ends up being. But he has never done anything that even remotely leads me to believe that he's the guy that should be in charge of these properties. He has to prove himself. There's nothing he's done that shows that he's the right guy. All right, guys, there's my update. I will do a separate video on what I want to do with my channel, and I'm going to leave a link to those photos in this video, as well as a link to my email address in case people need to get a hold of me. And I will address my channel and some things I have planned for the future in a separate video that will be up either later today or tomorrow. I do appreciate all the support. We will see you on the next video.